Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, welcome to TFYLP, episode 401. This is Lucas. Tonight I am joined by Paul.
Hey!
And Christian.
What's up?
And Phil.
Good evening.
Who's Phil?
So welcome, Phil. Phil was on Ouch My Wallet a while ago, I guess it was, and we needed another cast member tonight, so I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. I hurried through my son's Harry Potter reading for the night. It's like, how much can I speed read before I got to jump down here to jump on this? So,
Accio Fasto. Sleepo.
Yeah.
See, that's really the key to podcasting is that you prioritize that over like doing stuff with your kids and your family, and that way you'll be really popular.
I had the day off with him today. He had the day off the day. I spent 90% of the day with him. Coached his soccer practice. We went hiking together. All that good stuff. So yeah, the only thing I'm not spending as much time with him is for when I have my therapy appointment over Zoom and in this with you guys.
And see, for us, this is our therapy session. So
Yeah.
So
over
double dipping.
But no, I appreciate you joining us, Phil.
Nope, happy to join.
So tonight we're actually the topic we're going to talk about gimmicks or things that the Transformers line has done that are not our favorite thing. And this was actually proposed to us by Serge, but then apparently he couldn't be on. So
His car is busy trying to get over a curb somewhere.
that is
It's
true.
2 cars now. He bought another one this weekend.
Yeah. Well, again, he's got one to keep in the package and one to take out and put on the shelf.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he's doing.
Well, I like that he bought a more reliable car, but it looked kind of similar to me. I mean, I guess it doesn't have the rims that are as low or whatever, but yeah.
I'm not sure.
I just wonder what sort of obscene anime stickers he's going to throw on the new one.
He showed me a picture today. He's only got a Gundam on it so far.
Okay.
I'm sure the rest are coming, though.
Yeah, no.
I'm not sure we're in any position to be judging him on purchasing multiples of the same thing.
Yeah, no, nerds judge other nerds. That's what we do.
Right.
It's like,
Like
what is it, the Onion article that everyone else in the comic book store is a weirdo but me?
Exactly.
Yep, true.
I'm the normal one.
Yeah. Look at all those guys playing Dungeons and Dragons and Magic. Yeah. Do you have the new Marvel Legends in?
Yeah, I don't collect dolls.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't collect those Mezco 112 with their soft goods.
And I'm sure the D&D guys are saying the same thing about us. They're like, well, I might be into D&D, but at least I'm not into Transformers. Jeez.
Yeah, you guys want to talk about sports for a while?
I think there's a game on tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Chargers and, God, I forget who else.
I was kidding.
And then there's another one tomorrow night that was postponed because of COVID.
Yeah.
I thought it was all postponed because of COVID.
No, the NFL has not been doing this well, not nearly as well as the other leagues have, and the NFL had the most amount of time to prep for it, and so they are like they're rescheduling games and canceling games left and right, and so it's been interesting to say the least.
Yeah, my favorite team, Missouri, they're 2 weeks in and their games got canceled for next week already. So, but
Paul, what's not canceled? Transformers.
TFYLP.
Never be canceled.
What's
Yeah,
this
not
shirt you're
TFYLP.
wearing, Paul? People in the chat were asking about it.
About my shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a. There it is. It's a shirt. It's a Smashing Pumpkins thing. All right. It's not JC. Does not stand for Jesus of Nazareth. It is Billy Corgan and Jimmy Chamberlain.
So
if you're watching, guys, you're welcome for the shout out.
Yeah, I'm sure they're watching. So anyway, so Ron in the chat is saying that asking, do store exclusives count as a gimmick? Because he doesn't like that.
No.
Luckily, Earthrise is full of exclusives. Exclusives we don't even know about. Apparently, we found out today that Walgreens, that the Walgreens exclusive is Blue Streak, and he's been showing up in stores. So like, never announced, nothing, and he's just in stores now.
I mean, okay. I mean, there was some uncertainty, and originally I was like, "Oh, Blue Streak has got to be the, it's got to be the Walgreens thing this time." But then, like, that Amazon listing showed up with all the high-res photos and stuff, and I was like, "Oh man, maybe it's not." And then I was thinking maybe it would be. I assumed it would be a Datsun. I was like, "Oh, maybe it'll be Barricade." And then Barricade showed up in Japan. With that photo of the Selects box in Japan, which was insane. So then my head was spinning, and then when they found it, I was like, oh, well, back to square one. That makes a lot of sense, because it's October, and every October, the Transformers exclusive hits Walgreens. It's happened for 5 years in a row.
And the trick is, if you can get the Walgreens exclusive before TFCon, you can make bank.
You sell them all at your T-shirt table at TFCon.
Right.
Very relatable.
Or you drive and you make sure to be in front of another person trying to pick them up, and you raid all the Walgreens before they can.
Listen, you only found them at one Walgreens, so I wouldn't
that is
the way home, they were all everywhere.
Right, but we don't care about the way home. TFCon was done.
I cared.
So yeah,
No,
if
store
you're selling
exclusives
them
do not count
online
as a
or
gimmick.
whatever.
Yeah,
So-
store exclusives is just a byproduct of retail commerce, so not really related to Transformers.
And the end of Toys R Us.
Yeah, it's kind of time to get over that hill, guys. Sorry, retail exclusives are going to exist forever.
Yeah, and they always have. So like,
They always
Right.
have. They always will.
I mean,
not
I would
the
say
game.
that
Get over it.
the more retail exclusives there are, probably the healthier the brand is. You know what I
Yep,
mean?
I
Because
agree
they
with that.
want them. Like, because for a while, Transformers kind of dipped down with Power of the Primes and whatnot. We didn't see as many, so...
Yeah, from like 2014 and 2015 until last year, there weren't that many. So yay, I'm glad they're back.
you're 100% right though that this is like a post Toys R Us world, because like all these companies had to step up in one way or another, and this is how it's manifesting. You know, it will probably be like this for a few years, if not forever.
Yeah, I
What-
mean,
what
you
is
have
an actual gimmick you don't like?
Oh,
You know, the actual show topic.
why don't we
Well,
ask?
keys.
I was going to
Yes,
mention
Phil.
Zaldron in the chat had also mentioned cyber keys and minicons were bad because if you lose them, that you can't use the features on the main bots.
Well, Zaldr and I are no longer friends, so that's cool.
I'm in 100% agreement with that.
Wow. I
And
feel
most
that.
of the action features that you can initiate with the cyber key, besides Boost getting super excited, the feature you can initiate with the cyber key or the minicon is pretty ancillary to the toy itself.
Well, the one thing
Okay.
with the cyber key, though, like if you have a cyber key, you can unlock the bot, right? Like you don't have to, like they're not like,
Or if you have a
it's not
pointy
specific to each
stick.
one.
Or a missile, or a spudger. Or
But then
a
it becomes like
knife.
one more thing that like, oh, let me make sure I got a complete toy. It's like, oh, I don't have the cyber key, or I have the wrong cyber key.
You know, I've kind of found that a lot of people don't care about that.
Well, the cyber keys to me are just like a modern manifestation of the Power Master gimmick from G1.
And even that was a little frustrating.
I mean, you could. I didn't, as a kid, I didn't know that you needed them to transform them. Somehow I got around it. Like, it never dawned on me until I was older. So they were still, like, they were not a requirement to operate by any means.
Now, for the case of, if you lose a piece, you can't use the toy anymore. I would say that headmasters are definitely a worse offender for that.
Yeah.
Because now your dude doesn't have a head, and that doesn't look good for anybody.
I would agree with that, and that's one of the things when Titans Return came out. My kids were still relatively young, and I was kind of freaking out about that my kids would lose it. So like I was always trying to like keep those specific toys like downstairs so that my kids like wouldn't take them up to the playroom or whatever and then like lose the head or whatever. And the other thing is that I actually took off like a lot of the actual heads and like put them somewhere else, and then I put the little Titan Master, what were they called again, whatever the little $5 things were.
You had the Titan Masters.
Titan Masters, yeah. So I would plug the heads from the Titan Masters on with the kids because they wouldn't care, and so that way if I lost one of them I could just go pick one up for $3 or $5 or whatever it was at the time.
Or you just find 20 of 20 of them sitting at Five Below or Ross for $2 or $3.
Right.
Well, I mean, you used to. They're gone now.
Yeah. So that's because I think we all cleared every Five Below out of Ape Face in the Chicagoland area.
It was all a good sacrifice.
I do still like Headmasters and mini cons and Target Masters and Power Masters and whatnot, because I do like that they're smaller characters that interact with larger characters, so that's still a good feature for me. But yeah, if they get lost, that's kind of a problem.
So see, that's where I think the Cyber Key is worse, because the Cyber Key isn't a character.
It's just an accessory. Here's a question, Christian. Is Chrome Dome, G1 Chrome Dome, is that 2 toys or 1?
Depends on what you are counting.
What are you counting?
I don't count. Well, I guess if I had, I would count it as 1. But yeah, it's 2 toys, but I would count it as 1.
Is it 1 toy and 1 accessory, or should I say multiple accessories include the guns?
1 package.
Well,
two dudes, 1 pack. I don't know.
The product.
So are the clones 2 toys with 1 package?
That's 2 dudes in. Yeah, they're 1 package, but yeah, they're 2 different dudes.
I would love to dissect this question, but I feel like it's.
You're gonna steer us astray.
Yeah, we don't want to go there. We're talking about gimmicks, right?
All right, so Phil, what's your most hated gimmick?
Yeah. I was just saying Cyber Keys.
Really? That's your all of Transformers. That's your most hated thing.
In general, an action feature that takes away from the transformation of the toy or the streamlinedness of the toy. So, for instance, Thundercracker with the Cyber Key, that's just so sort of bizarre and weird to have that, or Starscream with the big flap on his back, because you have to have the Cyber Key port stuff flip out. It's just sort of it takes away from the actual, again, streamline of the figure itself.
So one thing I want to circle back to the Titans Return and the Headmasters. I really love the gimmick, and I love the fact that we got some of those Headmasters redone and whatnot. But at the same time, it was really frustrating because they wanted to make all the Headmasters the exact same size, and so all of the Voyagers were just it just didn't work for any of the Voyagers, I feel like. And some of the Deluxes, it didn't work. If they had rounder heads, it just didn't really work. I thought the Leaders were okay because they could have a huge kind of helmet that kind of went over the top. But the Voyager, I just did not like any of the Voyagers in that line with the Headmasters.
Well, I'm glad that I would have preferred them universal than different size heads, you know, that had, you know, like, oh, this one doesn't fit in there and this one does, like, because in G1 that annoyed me a lot that they made like the smaller headmasters, like the year, like, was that Victory? I don't know, like, it was either Victory or Super God Master Force. Yeah, okay, I'm thinking of the series. It was like a year after, but yeah, those Headmaster Juniors, like, I hated them, and they are so much closer to Titan Masters. You know, like, really, they used those as the template, not the real, you know, bulkier Headmasters. But I'm glad they did not. I would have not enjoyed the Gimmick as much if they were not universal. So,
I mean, I think it was a fun play pattern, but I just think as a collector's line, like, a lot, it didn't necessarily work for a fair amount of the figures. So that would be my complaint. I think it was overall a win, and I really enjoy, like, you know, prior to what we're getting now, like, it was probably one of my favorite lines overall, but, you know, it's still, like, you know, again, it's a nitpick for me.
I think it's interesting when you look at the new 86 Studio Series line they have coming out and how many of those are the first ones to be redone. Scourge, Cup, Hot Rod. I mean, those were decent looking Titans Return toys, but again, you know, Scourge's head in particular didn't fit that square shape that the Titan Masters did. So, you know, hey, look how quickly they are to redo that toy. You know, same thing could probably be said about RC, although RC had a really recent one before she was the Titan Master that was, you know, some people even said better than this new one that's coming out for Earthrise.
Yeah. I think they just want to be as faithful as possible, and I do think it was a bit of a misstep to turn everyone into headmasters. But that was the play pattern. They were still going after the, you know, this whole line has a gimmick thing rather than what they're doing now where they only do it if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, the current lines still kind of have gimmicks. At least, you know, definitely Siege did. And Ron brings up your favorite thing, Christian, which are blast effects.
God, I hate blast effects. I hate them so much.
Wow.
I think they are trash. They are a waste of money. They don't look good on any figure. God, I wish they didn't have them.
Do you feel that same way about like Marvel Legends and other non-Transformers? Wow.
Yeah, wow, you are so wrong.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I love blast effects.
So here's my question, Christian, about the blast effects. Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are just polar opposites here. So would you rather them to include missiles, or do you just not want any kind of things like that?
I would trade blast effects. I guess I would trade them for missiles, but I'm kind of glad we haven't done that in a while. I didn't hate spring-loaded missiles or whatever. Just, I don't need them anymore. I would take another weapon. I would take some more paint apps. Yeah. Just get them out of there.
See, the thing about missiles,
they go in a bin, and I never touch them again.
Yeah, I just feel like missiles, like, the thing that annoys me about them is that, again, in order for the figure to be complete, you need the missile, and then it's like God trying to figure out which missile goes to what, and all that is just, you know, my organization is not that spot on.
You know what's worse than finding out which missile goes with things? Which random piece of cleared fire plastic goes with which other figure? How am I supposed to figure that out?
Fair.
That is true.
Pieces of gummy nonsense. And while we're at Siege, can I go in on Siege one more time?
Oh, certainly.
I hate space mud. It looks so horrible. That battle damage nonsense. No, just give me a clean figure. Please.
No.
So, I think that some of it turned out okay.
I don't think any of it turned out okay.
You don't think there's nothing like there's nothing that you're like, oh, this I kind of enjoy the.
Nope.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
It was better in the Netflix series, but not great. I would still prefer it to be clean.
What about the decos they did on Optimus and Megatron for the like animation cell rendering?
I appreciate that. It's not for me, but I don't hate it.
Okay.
I'm glad it's there for people who do like it, which is how I feel about most of this stuff. I just don't actively hate that one.
I wish they would have done more of them than just 2 characters, you know?
Right.
It always annoys me when, like, a concept that could be widespread is just, like, one-offed. Like the Golden Lagoon. It's like, oh, here's 5 Golden Lagoon toys for some fucking reason. You know,
Right.
like, from different toy lines, and like it makes no sense. That always kind of annoys me. And so, like, here's 2 random animation versions in 35 anniversary packaging. Oh, and a regular Sound Blaster and a regular Blue Streak. Here you go. You know, like there was no cohesiveness there.
How did they
I like
even,
something.
for the Golden Lagoon, how did they even pick what they were going to use? Like, did they just pull it out of a hat, or is there some kind of, like, reason they chose what they did?
I mean, Beachcomber is the only one that really makes sense. Outside of that, it's just, grab bag.
Yeah, I mean, the Soundwave doing the Titans Return Soundwave made no sense, and then Masterpiece. Hey, let's throw MP10 in there, dogs. Like, why not?
And then the gold Starscream, which is like, here's this random, version of this mold that's a combiner. Oh, by the way, there's no other gold dudes for it to combine with.
I mean, I sort of got that because at that time you had the Starscream torso, and it's another Starscream. You could have a complete Starscream combiner, but there's only 3 different versions of the mold. They never released a regular one that was like just Starscream. So it still didn't make sense, even if you stretch it like that.
That was weird.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
I got some bad gimmicks.
Yeah? What you got?
Black Play-Doh?
I mean, that was weird, but I pretty much just detest anything that had battery operated effects, because it was always, like we're going way back, because they don't really do this very often anymore, but like, G1 Skylinks and Triptychon and Omega Supreme, they all had like these big battery packs. And this also includes like, voice act, like sound boxes and stuff, because that stuff, it's kind of cool, but it is such a hindrance on the toy, the end product of the figure, in one way or another. Either the vehicle sucks, or there's this giant brick in the chest and it doesn't have any torso rotation. Just like we're so beyond the hindrances of that I just don't want to see that again.
I think you're right. We don't need that. I think it's even annoying to have it in like MP44.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a great example, actually. Like, that is one of the detractions of that thing, is that it has a big backpack that's required, because there's this big piece. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool that it makes those noises, but like, we need a perfect version of Optimus that doesn't have that crap.
I think the way they did it with the MP1 stand, where they had the stand that made the noise and you could stand it on it, I think that makes sense.
That's cool.
And so that's what I was just thinking about. Like, the way they did it well was with the G2 Transformers. The G2 Optimus Prime that you had, that additional part that went on his trailer, that's where the noises came from. Like, it's funny that, what was that, late 80s, early 90s, they actually did it right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But it's kind of similar to what you said about the Cyber Keys and Minicons and stuff, Phil, where it's got that extra piece that hinders the rest of the toy so it can do the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a very similar point.
Yeah, the G2 jets don't look good with that big like tank voice machine that would plop on the back of the jets. That is not a streamlined aerodynamic look that looks like it would actually fly.
Well, I'm curious
take it off and throw it in bin, and then you're done.
For the MP or third-party collectors, like the figures that come where you have to actually supply a battery and put some tiny little watch battery in it or whatever, like, do you guys actually do that, or do you just never? Like, I've never added a battery to a figure. I'm not gonna do it.
Well, that's the next part of this problem. My problem with this gimmick is, like, batteries are like a ticking time bomb with collectible toys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even like some that come with batteries in them, like ROTF, Revenge of the Fallen Optimus and stuff. You know, like after 10 years of being, if you keep that thing sealed, like that battery is probably going to explode someday. And so it's, I don't know, those things are not great from a longevity standpoint. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's worse if it actually comes with the batteries and has that thing where it's like "try me now" kind of thing on the package, like they used to on some of the toys. Because, like you said, like there's no way to get that battery out, like, and keep the toy, sealed. So it's like, what do you do?
But didn't all the leaders from the movie line have that? I think they all had some, and so like they had this big section in the middle that just could not be modified. I think the Starscream mold actually pulled it off the best.
Yeah.
Why are you body shaming them, Paul?
Yeah, I was gonna say some of us have big sections in the middle. Like there's nothing,
Well, yeah, me too, but I don't have batteries in them.
I think another thing we can leave behind in the past, except on probably reissues, is diecast. I don't want to see diecast on a Transformer ever again.
I think the diecast, like if it's done well, I think can be good. I think that
there is no place where diecast is done well, to me.
I think that for the 3A figures, like the skeleton of them is diecast, and I think it helps with the heft and whatnot. I think some of the ones where you're trying to make them balance, so like if they put some diecast in the legs, I think it can be done well. But again, like too much diecast is a bad thing, I think, and I think a lot of third-party figures are like that, where they just throw as much diecast as they can at it, and then it's to the hindrance of the toy.
Oh, diecast is so valuable. Look how collectible it is by being metal. No, just do better at your designs.
I like the diecast feet that give it a little bit more weight than some of the third-party toys, so they stand.
Right.
I love the Vinyltech toys, and those are like all diecast. Like the frames are.
Got me
and
riding
stuff.
the Vinyltechs.
Yeah. Because I always thought it was weird when like one little part of it is diecast. It's like, why is that joint right there diecast and not this other one? I don't know. So I could go with or without it, but I did like when Vinyltech did it because it was like significantly overblown. Like they didn't need to do that.
So I'll get slightly off topic here. It's toys, but not Transformer toys. With the Last Jedi, when that came out, there was a series of store exclusives. So store exclusives, which people have already said they hated. They were repaints of existing toys that would have like Luke Skywalker's hand was now metal. Like that was the thing that made that toy special and different than the regular release. So it was ancillary diecast plus exclusive plus still they were lousy toys to begin with. And that's just in terms of a gimmick, you're not making the toy better. You're making it hard to find for collectors who need everything. That's one of the worst I've seen. Again, not Transformers, but still Hasbro folks making those decisions.
Those folks.
So in the chat they bring up Big Daddy Reviews brings up Chrome. That's another good one.
Yeah.
I like Chrome like at the beginning, before it wears off.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't age, but I think it makes the figure look neat. But
yeah, that vac metal Chrome is really neat looking, especially on we're all thinking of Transmetals and Transmetal 2s, but it just doesn't live. Yeah, I think we can accomplish essentially the same effect these days with better metallic paint.
I don't like it because it gets streaky,
Yeah.
Like if you touch
Does it not live because we played with the toys more as a kid and then it faded? Like, I'm looking at my G1 shelf. It's got a fair amount of reissues. And like my Insecticon set is about a decade old, and those all still look bright and shiny from where I'm sitting. So is it just that they wore off because we did with those toys what we were supposed to do with them, which was play with them as a kid, versus now when they just sit on a shelf in a room that's pretty much dark most of the time, they still look good when you occasionally get some light shining on them?
I think
don't
the
know.
Beast Wars ones definitely have a composition problem, but as far as G1 Chrome stuff goes, I don't know.
And again, these are reissues, so they have the upside of that. Like, hey, this is a better way of doing some of these now. But yeah, even my G1 Optimus Prime, still looks pretty shiny over on the shelf.
Well, I know someone earlier brought up GPS, gold plastic syndrome, which, I mean, that's something that a ton of the G2 figures and European figures had that gold plastic. And again, it looked neat at the time, but then and that's something that even if you don't mess with it, it just crumbles. Like, if you touch it the wrong way, that it's going to just fall apart after 20 years.
I'm going to hit the offense horn on that one, because that is not a gimmick. That is just a problem.
But they keep telling us it's resolved.
Yeah, right.
It's what they say. I have a few of those. If they fixed it, then the movie preview Starscream should be just fine in a few years. But I don't know.
Now that one's already crumbling.
Well, I got a few in the box, so we'll see.
The one I'm focused on right now is the Combiner Wars G2 Slingshot. Will he live? Hopefully they fixed it for him.
We'll see.
Now you just gotta hope they do an Alpha Bravo in G2 colors so you can.
I would have bought that.
Will he suffer the same fate as the actual G2 Slingshot?
So I know this has been brought up, not tonight, but like many times in the podcast. But like as far as gimmicks go, there's one line that stands out that had no gimmicks, and that's what made it great, and it was amazing. And it was that first edition Prime toys, which was like, if you look at all the toy lines that preceded and came after it, like gimmicks, everything had a gimmick. But those like 5 or 6 toys in Prime First Edition, their gimmick was that they were awesome.
Yeah.
They were just amazing toys. They were so good, and the stuff that came after them it wasn't garbage, but it was just like, what?
It was nowhere near as good.
Robots in the Sky shit sucks.
They did have a packaging gimmick because they all came with those stages they could stand on.
Fair.
Which was cool.
Yeah.
I would like to see something like that return. I guess Studio Series does that.
Studio Series is kind of the same, where their gimmick is just like,
Really
their gimmick
good.
is to be screen accurate, but they also have the packaging stuff. They're just supposed to be high quality representations of what the fiction shows, and that's exactly what those toys were. So, love that gimmick. I would love that to keep going, but that's not really a gimmick. That's like the lack of a gimmick. It's one of the.
I mean, isn't that what MP is?
Debatably, I guess. It's all about definition, splitting hairs. I mean, I would say their gimmick is transformation. And
I mean, I would say now they spend a lot of time with accessories on Masterpiece, so that
ton of
you
crap.
kind of say that, that in the Studio Series 86, I think that those kind of are coming with similar kind of things. Like, they're coming with a fair amount of accessories, and they have some different gimmicks, but they're all like tied into the actual movie. Like, I think the cup actually breaks apart, and it comes with a little Energon
dispenser.
Yeah, dispenser or whatever. So
one that we saw when we were drafting up this show, Rob really hates light piping for some reason.
yeah.
why do you hate
I
light
don't know
piping?
why
I don't
you hate light
understand
piping.
what's bad about light piping is what I wish you would have added some more context to that, because I think light piping, when it's done well, is really nice.
Yeah, just don't paint over it. That seems silly. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I always thought it was cool. It's not. I've never had a problem with it, especially going back to the Heroes of Cybertron line. The American and versions of the SCF PVC figures. Like they cast them in that clear plastic so they could do that. They could actually have eyes that were red and purple. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing to think like how great some of those head sculpts looked while having that quote unquote gimmick in there as well. Like, I don't feel like it deterred from the actual toy.
Yeah, I'd like to know why Rob hates it so much. He must have like a few toys in mind that pissed him off somewhere along the line.
Right.
First time I ever remember seeing that was with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Metalhead.
I don't know what that is.
Metalhead?
He was the robot that the Ninja Turtles created that looked like a Ninja Turtle robot.
Oh, cool.
And the toy had like a little pink exposed brain in the back of his head, a little robot brain, and he had red eyes, and so it was light piping between the clear red plastic brain and the red eyes was light piped together.
Cool.
Yeah. It was like 1988 or something where I remember is my first exposure to that.
I mean, again, I'm not sure if that qualifies as a gimmick because it's not like this entire line has light piped eyes. Whoa, that's what we're doing this time. It's kind of just a byproduct of certain molding choices, and
It was a gimmick for the Cyberjets.
oh, like it literally was billed as light piped.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Them and they had the superior articulation. That was the first ball joints. So that was their gimmick. And the pressure launch missiles. They had 3 gimmicks. Small toys, 3 gimmicks.
I was gonna say, I know that Jim had brought up also the using translucent or clear plastics. So I think that could kind of go along with light piping, but especially using it for parts that transform or parts that like ball joints and things like that. I do think that for longevity purposes that can become a problem because I think it's more likely to become brittle as well. I don't know. Have you guys ever had a clear piece that broke? I've never had that problem.
Not really. I mean, no more than any other regular piece. Again, I'm not sure. Like, that's a production decision, not so much a gimmick in my mind. But, like to me, a gimmick is something that is on every. Like all the other stuff we said, like the Titan Masters. That was a gimmick. That was the entire line. It was, and it's unique to that line, like a certain subsect of toys. Like something I was trying to think of my least favorite, and I was trying to think like Pretenders, Action Masters, are those bad gimmicks? And like so much time has passed that it's almost hard to look back on those like with any objectivity. Like like they're fine and they're part of history now. But like you look at the Red series, and there's kind of your. Although I hate it when someone's like, "Oh, Action Masters, new Action Masters," because that's not what they are. They're completely different. But the lack of transformation is a gimmick for that line.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
I'm not interested in the red line at all, but if they did a red Jazz that had a skateboard or a red Bumblebee with a helicopter backpack, I'd be all over that. If they actually made it like Action Master homages.
Like lean into it.
Oh, yeah, I'd 100% get all those.
The thing that annoys me about this new Red series is the lack of articulation on some of these figures. And I don't think that they necessarily have any worse articulation than Marvel Legends. But at the same time, like, why do I want to buy a Marvel Legends Optimus Prime if it has worse articulation than the Earthrise Optimus Prime? Like, that's what I just don't really understand. Okay, sure, I guess it's more screen accurate.
Same reason I bought this.
Okay. Sure.
Ooh, can that be a gimmick? Because I don't like that.
Sure. It's not a Transformers.
Action, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't like those things at all.
I'm not a big fan of those. So.
Is that Super 7?
Yeah, these are the Super 7. These are reaction toys, which, I mean, the gimmick is that they are supposed to be like, everything was made by Kenner back in the 70s. This is what you would have gotten. So it's a niche thing.
So Ron brings up a good one in the chat. The whatchamacallit, the labels that they used on Power of the Prime, those stickers that they used.
Horrible.
Those were such garbage. So I mean, I love the idea of bringing back stickers as kind of a nostalgia trip and whatever, sure. But those stickers that they used were so bad. Those foil stickers that were like so thin and peeled off easily. I mean, it was horrible.
It's hard not to. it's hard not to hate those.
Yeah, like Lucas said, it was a good idea that ended up poorly executed.
I never
kinda,
liked stickers personally. Just never liked it.
Okay.
I kind of always wondered with, the lack of paint that they had in Combiner Wars and then the stickers that they started using, if somehow like somebody like at Hasbro like was in on it with the guys from Repro Labels, that they're like, haha, like we're going to make our money in the back end, like, forcing all these nerds to buy sticker upgrades.
Awful business plan.
Well, let's talk about Combiner Wars for a second, because I know a lot of people were mad at Combiner Wars where everyone was a combiner. I really like that, but I know that not everyone felt that way.
I'm glad we're getting updates to some of the toys that weren't originally combiners. Skylinks is the one that stands out for me. I mean, Skylinks, I remember at BotCon when they first showed that, I was excited for it. And then I got the toy in the hand. It's like, all right, this is cool, but it's not what I want Skylinks to be. And now we have a Skylinks toy of what I really want it to be. The Combiner Wars, I mean, it wasn't Combiner Wars, but the Combiner Wars Starscream, the Combiner Starscream they eventually did, the Elita ones, I feel like those suffer a little bit more than when you got like Combiner Wars Optimus Prime. It's like, all right, it's Transformers. They're going to do an Optimus Prime and make him a combiner. Right. I feel like, all right, you got to reuse the mold. So how can we redo some of the Senticons? Let's do the G1 cars and whatnot. So, I mean, it was sort of like, hey, let's see how much we can double dip. I didn't buy most of those. And, again, no one's putting the gun to your head to say you have to if you didn't like it. But the combiners themselves, I thought were great.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, like, again, they were easy repaints, and I don't think that there was anyone that they did that was, like, I was really offended by. Because, again, like, most of those characters, like, we'd already gotten in Generations.
Yeah.
And so it's something that's like, well, if you don't like the updated Combiner Wars one, just, like, don't buy it. You already have an Optimus Prime, you already have a Sunstreaker, you already have, like, whatever. So... just keep those and don't buy the extra ones. And then for the people that are new to collecting that really wanted a Mirage or they wanted an Optimus Prime, like, this could be it. And I just didn't think it was too bad just because, again, I mean, I feel like with the Generations line, like, at least for the longest time, it was almost like kind of a reimagining of the character. So it's not like that it had to be the exact G1. Like now we're kind of getting back into that where everything has to be G1 accurate. But
another gimmick I liked about Combiner Wars is that all the deluxes came with comics. I miss bonus pack-ins like that. I would trade Blast Effects for comics.
I don't know if comics are too expensive now. I mean, they started going to the trading cards after a while too, so I'm sure that was part of it. But I know how many people actually got into the IDW comics because of those pack-ins where they would read it and they're like, "Oh, this is kind of neat." Like,
I'm sure it wasn't zero.
Right.
Might have been close though.
I don't know, man. I started reading IDW, like getting into, because I wasn't in the IDW comics originally, and then after I started reading some of those, like I actually got more into it, and part of it too is friends saying, "Oh, you have to read more than meets the eye" and all that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I didn't really get into those comics until, I mean, I guess I'm joking about it because like those comic pack-ins were all Dark Cybertron, which was like kind of a low point for the story. It was a necessary one, but
there were a few good ones. They did a couple where it was the one-off issues where it was like the character spotlights.
Like those were good.
Those were the better ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few gems in there for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's the downside of what they were doing. I remember hearing an interview with some Hasbro folks talking about the toys and the IDW collaboration. Like, you're gonna love like what you see in the comic book and how it ties to the toy, and the comic book and how the toy line ties together. It's like, no, I didn't. Oh, you've got a kind of lame Tankor toy, and Tankor's in the comic book too, kind of, wedged in there.
Well, at least they tried. It's always been difficult to get the media to match up with the toy production? And that's a question I asked, Aaron and Rick at the last episode that they talked about. It's just the schedules are so out of whack, it's impossible. So they must have had that Dark Cybertron written so far ahead of when it came out, because to be in the toy release when the actual issues were coming out is almost impossible to make that happen.
I think you just need to have the Hasbro folks saying, "Hey, here's the list of characters we're making toys of. Work these characters into the story somehow."
Right.
That's a little bit easier to have that kind of editorial mandate.
So, Christian, Big Daddy Reviews has a shot across the bow for you and Anna, which is the Power Core Combiners.
Dude, you guys can shoot across my bow all day. I will die on the hill that Power Core Combiners are great.
Oh!
They have Minicons. They got little dudes that auto-transform. Everybody's in the same scale. It's amazing.
You got Dino Pope.
We did get Dino Pope.
You got
anything else?
The guy that's got the deep sea, old-fashioned deep sea helmet is his combiner helmet. That's amazing.
He's amazing. Yeah. Get out of here with that crap.
I will say, on one hand, those toys are kind of lame, but on the other hand, I love that line. And there was something about those designs that was just way more fun than it should have been.
Yep. I agree with that a lot. Although I can say that I don't super need auto-transforming gimmicks anymore.
That's a good one.
They keep those to the one steps and the kid-friendly lines, but for us, with the movie Automorph stuff or the Mecha Live stuff or the movie 2 or, mech tech weapons, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it was kind of novel when it came out. I was like, oh, it's neat. It does it on its own. But yeah, that stuff breaks. Kids break that stuff. Collectors break that stuff. It takes a nimble hand.
I think especially now with the way that they do the plastics and how flexible those plastics are, it's hard to put in those automorph features.
Like Paul said, it wasn't.
I don't know. The Rescue Bots one steps are very durable, man. You can do it. My son's got a bunch of Rescue Bots, and they're all one step changers, and we'll smash those things together and transform them 10 times in 30 seconds, and they still hold up.
Good. And I hope they keep that sort of gimmick to that sort of line.
Yep.
Just don't bring it into the collector lines anymore. They have a place. I'm glad they exist for that audience.
But again, they made them so that they're more durable because they knew that 2-year-olds would be playing with the things. Whereas
the arms don't move at all, and the legs don't move at all. The most articulation you has blades, helicopter blades spinning.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mentioned a couple packaging gimmicks so far. One that I really miss was from Classics, the 2007 line, where they had the Velcro flaps where you could see the robot mode if you flipped it up on the package. I really miss that kind of packaging.
I prefer the little spinning thing that some of the other Classics packaging came with that showed you both sides of the transformation.
I like the spinny thing too.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
They had those on the Star Wars Transformers too.
Oh wow.
You want to know a gimmick I could do without, especially with packaging? Weird shaped packaging. Just make it a rectangle. Okay? We don't need that slant in there. It doesn't help anything. You put them in the same box as a rectangle. The Studio Series Voyager is the same imprint as a War for Cybertron one. Only it's got the slanty thing in it.
The slanty thing makes it cool, man.
Well,
the Star Wars team thought the same, I guess, because they started doing it too.
The one thing I think is funny is they're trying to, cut down on packaging and whatever and all that. But we've seen, even with the new packaging that they're doing for Kingdom, the bot is a tiny bit of the packaging. You know what I mean? Like the very top of it is the robot, and then there's 6 inches of space down at the bottom. It's you really probably just could cut that down. We don't need to have a huge package there.
I mean, do you want to go like what they did with the Walgreens toy, where there's no window at all and it's just the pictures?
Oh, you mean the Cyber Series stuff?
And stuff. Yeah.
I don't know. I prefer the window personally, but
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a lot of people complain about like paint apps and stuff, and they want to like inspect them all before they choose their pristine copy of their $20 figure that there's a million of out there. Like, and they don't like it when there's not a window to see the figure inside because he might have been, the guy at the factory might have put 3 eyes across his head instead of just 2, and that'd be bad.
Yeah, I don't like MP packaging for that reason because you can't see the figure.
But yeah, I do think that it's one of those things where if you don't open the figure, like you feel like you're missing out, and where like if it doesn't have that window, and so like that's the thing with the Masterpiece figures. Like I don't understand those people that do mint and package Masterpiece because you can't see the darn thing.
But the box art's so pretty.
Just collect with
The
a
black
friend.
and white.
The friend will keep the toys. You keep the box. It's the same end result.
No, it's not. The one line I remember being just a huge offender of this problem that I'm talking about is the first movie line where everything was curved. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
That made no sense. Like, that was just awful. Once you're basically losing volume in your shipping box, everywhere, and like just trying to store those things is a nightmare. Because everything had the curve. Like the Leaders had the big curve, the Voyagers did. The Deluxes were the same way because their bubble was like this big curvy thing. It's just a nightmare to try to store that stuff, and it's not
that
fun.
is one thing I do like about the Masterpiece packaging is the fact that it's pretty easy to store. Like all the cars, I think, are pretty much the same size or very similar and whatnot. So like I do like that because then I can just throw all the those boxes in another box somewhere. But
yeah, there's only like about maybe 9 or 10 different Masterpiece configurations of the boxes, so it is kind of nice for storage. Like if you have them all, you can kind of like put all the like size boxes together.
that's where I feel like for mainline figures, it's how important is it to keep the packaging? Like if you're gonna open the toy, like why keep the box? Like I can understand if you're gonna keep it mint in box, but like I don't know.
I get rid of most packaging.
I just don't see how you're going. I mean, after a while of collecting,
Could you still say that if you open up your bins in Iowa?
Where's Iowa?
What is Iowa?
Who is
It's a Slipknot second album.
Yes, that's
I can't think of anything else I don't like.
I mean, packaging
I like
gimmicks.
most things.
I will say, and they're redoing it now. The little clear red plastic for you to like find some hidden message and just like garbage. It's just garbage right away. I'll have someone else, if I really care that much, I'll go read what someone else uncovered what the message was online. But for me, that is just one more piece of trash that's just one more piece of packaging that's going to go immediately into the trash, and that I hope doesn't like end up on the floor that like the dog or the kid tries to put it in their mouth.
See, I actually thought it was kind of neat that they brought it back. Like I actually enjoyed it. And, the fact that it was kind of like an homage to G1 and the tech specs and all that kind of thing. So I don't know. Like I gave up on doing the map. I know Christian is still, carrying that torch, but, and I'm kind of curious too, like, down the road, if you want to sell those figures, like, are people going to expect a map piece to come with the figure for it to be complete?
Some will, some won't.
Are we going to get into the debate of does it come with instructions or not?
I was just saying the same thing.
That's true.
I'm glad we all know what that means.
Way too close to that.
Yeah.
So, I don't
no one mentioned Cyberverse. It's like a line of gimmicks.
well,
No one
Cyber
likes
keys.
Cyberverse.
Oh, were you saying? The new Cyberverse.
Yeah, the stuff that's out right now that everyone
garbage.
pretends doesn't exist.
Yeah, mostly just do what you just said, pretend it doesn't exist, and move on. Buy a couple here and there. They're fine.
The Repugnus is a fun one.
Yeah.
I enjoy the Cyberverse Repugnus quite a bit.
This fellow?
I got the regular colored version, not the neon one. But I mean, that neon green one was in an episode.
Oh, he was?
Yep. There's like a whole city of Repugnuses.
So pretty.
That's a cool toy.
Oh, Christian, I do have a question for you that Ron had brought up about the map thing, right? Because I think that they had shown that there's still like 3 figures or something that we have no idea what map pieces are going to come to complete the map. If they don't release those last map pieces, how upset will you be?
There's only 3 guys left. I mean,
Like if somehow they just get one away and they just never release that last piece of the map.
I think I'll just have to cross that bridge when I get to it. I don't even know. It'll either be like really mad or it'll just be like just toss it all the way and never think of it again.
just 3D print that last piece.
Well, it's
He's
kind of
going
like
to write some
get a
epic
poster
fan
board.
fiction of what the last piece really represents.
it's kind of like the thrilling 30 line that they did with the 30 figures.
Oh, they were just tossing numbers on crap at the end.
Kill
So annoying.
me.
Yeah, this is part of it.
I mean, so I guess
go
it's a
get this
marketing
thing.
gimmick we all hate.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a poorly thought out one. You know, like that was someone in charge was just like, we're gonna do this. Oh, thrilling and 30. They both start with THR. Let's do it. Like 30 doesn't even do that.
Like,
And then everyone
I don't
had to
mind
like
the
scramble to
idea
make it
of
work.
it. Yeah. Like we put 3 Metroplexes in it and 2 of the Beast Tracker Optimus. It's like, dude,
I know.
it's the same toy. Stop it.
Yeah, it was a bad. I mean, that's the problem. Is like there's so many people involved. Someone just makes this like decision without knowing anything about. You're at the top of the pyramid making the decision, and everyone at the bottom, you know, stuff rolls downhill, as they say, and suddenly, you know, like, oh, you got to set up an approval process to make sure that 1 through 30 get made. You know, so they're like, oh crap, just throw it on everything. I mean, Rick
And like,
would.
wasn't like
Real bad.
17 last or something because they skipped over. Well, it was
Well, like when
messy.
deluxes started being like numbered in, it's like okay, like they're just filling the gap.
Like, oh, this pack of 1-steps is part of it. Why? Stop it.
But you can only find the 1-steps at Ross or something.
I mean, I'm glad that they're taking some of that stuff seriously because it matters to collectors. It helps with that the OCD side of it, you know, like you just got to
Right.
tick that box because you know all the Studio Series toys are numbered, and they've learned this from like the Black Series from Star Wars because they number their figures, but like they're a little loosey goosey with it as well. It's not like there's, you know, every number in the rainbow is on there. But like they've done a good job. Like Siege started with number 1, and it ended with whatever it ended with, and every number in between was a figure. You know, I'm highly expecting somewhere if they keep doing this, like somewhere along the line they're gonna forget a number, or they're gonna miss one or something,
Right.
and be like, "Oops, there's no 14." You know, because someone just wasn't able to plan it out right. But so far they're doing pretty good, and Earthrise is almost done, and they're doing it again with Kingdom, and Studio Series is still trucking, and somehow they got Devastator to be 69, which I just think
Love
is
it.
hilarious.
Amazing.
But I'm wondering what that means to the Studio Series 86 as a number, like so now it's going to be like Studio Series 70 86 Hot Rod, or is it going to be like Studio Series 86 70 Hot Rod, or does it start over now?
I think it's the first thing you said. That is what I would imagine it to be.
This is sort of a gimmick thing, you know, like this is kind of a newer thing. So a lot of people ignore the fact that these things are numbered, but like I highly am interested in invested in the fact that they're doing this.
I just like that it's easy packaging to quickly look on the side of a display and see which figures are there, and you can quickly know like this is stuff I want versus stuff I can overlook. Like the Cyberverse Deluxes, those don't really differentiate the packaging, at least on one side. I think one side they show the name of the character, but the other side is just whether it's Autobot or Decepticon, and that's just like, no, annoying. Give me more than that. You know, granted, I only just have to shift my body like 2 feet to the other side to look on the other part of it, but it's
I feel that
it's more effort than I like to put in.
I feel that pain, Phil. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've like seen a peg full of Deluxes, and I'm like, do they have RC? And you got to like move them.
Yeah.
And then they all fall off, and you just look like a pud in the store.
I used to try and help my Hot Wheels collecting buddy find certain Hot Wheels. I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing that for you. That is not fun.
One thing
of
that
wanting to give me more, I really miss having bios on packaging, and I know they don't do it because they have to do multilingual packaging, and that's so much space. But I still miss it. You know, I want to tell me about this dude. You know, give me a bit of story. Tell me something. That was always my favorite part. That's why I like Transformers so much, because it's such a rich story that give you kind of clues.
See, I feel like they should do that. I feel like they should do that through like some type of QR code or, you know, whatever type of thing that you put it up online or you put it, you know, whatever, like some kind of thing. One thing that we haven't brought up yet is the Power of the Primes cards, the trading cards that were included randomly. And what was it? Everyone had, was it 12? Is that right?
I think everyone has 12.
Too many.
So,
poor Nick.
I know two people trying to complete those, and I'm just like,
no,
what?
we know at least three.
Don't do it.
Scotty, right, is one.
Yeah,
Peter and Nick.
We know them all.
Like, look, I know I do the map piece thing. I think that's crazy. But at least there's only one map piece per each dude. Like, come on. The cards actually were interesting. You know, in the vein of giving me bits of extra story, it was nice to see that the individual Prime Masters could power up the characters in that way. Lucas, I think your kid's really attached to that, right?
Yeah, and I actually thought the trading cards were kind of cool. Like, I was like, oh, fun. Like, I wonder which one I'm going to get. Like, and I never for the life of me actually thought that I would want to collect all 12 of every single character. But for those poor souls that do, I feel bad for them.
When I went to Toy Fair, that one year that they were showing off Predaking, I like pulled John Warden aside. I'm like, dude, did you put is there a card in this Predaking? Because I know some people that are gonna be real sad if that's the case. He's like, nah, we didn't want to do that, and I was like, that's a good play.
It is the giant card, the giant sheet.
Oh, it has them all on there, right? Or is it
on the back? It has it all. I think it's like whatever the.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because people were already mad you had to get that to get Beastimus Nexus balls or whatever his name was.
That Throne of the Primes, though, that's the
guy.
one I think that all those guys are having trouble completing, is because that exclusive, like, and I think Takara made it too or whatever, but that packaging with the Power of the Primes, Optimus Primal or whatever, the throne thing,
that had a card.
That had a card. That's the one that they can't complete. That's the one that those guys can't complete.
I mean, like, I think like one person could possibly complete it, right? Like, because how many of those cards have been destroyed to time at this point? You know,
how many people even opened up that package?
Right. I mean, there's only. Oh, you guys.
We need Nick here for this.
Well, because he was so excited when we found out Kingdom has random cards that they're going to be putting in the packaging, but you won't be able to tell which one it is. So
I have one right here because we talked about it on an episode a couple weeks ago.
He acts like it makes him angry, but you know it kind of like makes him happy. It's like, ooh, I get to buy a bunch of stuff over and over.
It's when you read on Facebook the guys just going like, it's about the hunt.
Right.
Sure it is.
Exactly.
All caps.
Dude, that dude's not hunting. That dude is just he's on another level, man.
So, anyway, I'm trying to think what other.
All right, there's one gimmick that we haven't talked about. It's probably my favorite gimmick that's ever existed, and I might be one of the very few people who feels as strongly about it as I do. Bots are a gimmick, man. They all transform into stuff, little chibi versions of real world stuff. That's totally a gimmick, right? It takes that Shopkins play pattern and brings it over to Transformers. Pete, what do you think?
But it doesn't do it. I mean, it's a gimmick, but it's a toy line as well. Like, it's its own. I would say the gimmick is like the distribution of it.
Okay, I like that too, though. That one is about the hunt.
At least they didn't actually do randomized stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how Shopkins really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But I am glad that you can hunt for the individual ones.
Yeah. I know some other people
I'm
brought
gonna
up
get them all
blind
anyway.
bag stuff in general. Are any of the Transformers like figures actually blind bag? Like I know the little
new releases of Creo is.
Oh yeah, it's mostly a Japanese like concept in general that has like moved over to the U.S. in certain ways, but like Hasbro just doesn't really have the gusto to do it all the way. They always give you the cheats. It seems like.
Did they do that with the little?
Yes.
I can't remember the super deformed characters that came. Weren't those blind bagged or blind box?
They might have been
from back in the day.
I mean, if you got a case, so it's like not 100% blind box because if you just bought a case, you knew what was in the, like you would get.
And
them
they had like the little tiny hole that you could look through and sort of, kind of see it if you had the right lighting, or people would like, wedge a little pinky in there and fill up the box.
Those are alt modes, is what you're talking about. That's the name of that toy line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alt mode.
And Lucas, I think you're talking about the 30th anniversary SD stuff, right?
Yes.
With the puzzle pieces and whatnot.
Yep.
I don't remember if those had packaging things on them to tell you which ones
I
they
don't
were.
remember. It's been so long.
I'm thinking of the
long time.
really old Japanese ones that were like there was clear versions and then there were painted versions.
Yeah.
They were really SD. They were like 2000 something.
So
but going back to the Creos, like how many of your Walgreens still have like box of season like Wave 4 Creos like sitting, on a shelf collecting dust at your Walgreens?
I see some occasionally.
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotty told me that the decos are different on the blind bag ones versus the previous. Any truth to that? It's
I'm
on
not going to ask
Creos?
about that.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't.
painful if true.
Yeah.
If you care, if you care enough.
I did go into Creo the way I went into BotBots very briefly, and then I was like, I hate doing this, and I have to get rid of it, and I did. But I got out way before that.
So they were bringing up in the chat about rub signs, and that they should bring those back. Now especially with the mercenary signs and all that too. I actually think that would be pretty neat. Now, originally, were the rub signs a anti-counterfeiting measure? Was that the reason they did them?
It's what they. That's the story. I mean, as a kid, I never knew that. I was just like, oh, cool.
I thought it was
But,
neat when I was a kid. I liked, putting your thumb on it and then it would, show what it was.
Yeah.
If that was their intention, it's not a bad idea because, I mean, that technology was, I wouldn't say it was like hard to do back then, but it was an extra expense that you couldn't just put in the printer. That required
they had the
some extra
patent
work.
for it at the time. So
Oh, they did?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
'cause
there
it was
were
like
lots
them
of
and
toys.
Battle Beasts,
Yeah.
which was also Takara Hasbro.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy who did it, but the guy who patented worked for Hasbro at the time.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, and that's
Cool.
probably the reason they quit doing it is because they probably didn't lost the patent or whatever, like it expired probably, and they're like, oh well, anyone can do it now, so.
Yeah, but it'd still be nice to see.
I think it'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know, but
because they did it again with Beast Wars. Those guys have rub symbols too.
Big Daddy Reviews also brings up bot shots as far as like ones that we love. And I know that was a line I really enjoyed that back in the day. I mean, I think that those figures are great. And there was a fair amount of like different lines had similar figures where you know that's the shoot them at each other and whatever. But I don't know. I thought that Hasbro did a good job with the Transformers line. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind it coming back.
It got confusing to me. Like there were so many different versions of the same figure at some point that it just got overwhelming to collect the bot shots specifically. And then some of them were exclusive to big play sets with like tracks and whatnot you had to get.
Yeah.
I didn't love that line, but they seemed fun, probably fun for kids.
I was gonna say, I guess it's a difference between like collecting to collect them all and you know just having fun with kids. Because like I know, especially at TF Expo, that we'd always every year the kids would get in the room and they would play with the bot. Like we'd have a tournament to, you know, see who could win the bot shot competition and whatnot. So like that was a lot of fun.
Well, every year at DairyCon they have the jump starter races.
Yeah.
Which is a bunch of jump starters, and everyone pulls them back, and whoever makes it across the finish line first without falling over wins.
Are they using the same jump starters that they did like 20 years ago?
Yeah. It's all twin twists and top spins, and they have numbers on them, like stickers of numbers, so you know, like, oh, I have number 13, and that one's mine. I win. A little happy.
I didn't know if people were like out there trying to find like a pristine twin twist or something so that it, you know, the function works better than, you know, somebody else where they've done it 1,000 times.
I think they go back in the bucket that they are in all year until DairyCon comes around again.
Gotcha.
And I just want to be the guy that shows up there with my pit crew for the for the change, like we just swap out the tires and put a new engine spring in, and like this puppy's ready to go.
It's like the Pinewood Derby.
Exactly. Like put graphite on the tires or something like that.
You disqualified. You used an illegal resin.
Gotta get that edge, man.
Got to get those DC exclusives. That's how you win them.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a gimmick that is not a terrible gimmick, but not like they used it all that much. I mean, if you go back and look at the oh my god, what were they? The Turbo Masters, like Goldbug and those dudes.
Throttlebots.
The Throttlebots. Thank you. I mean, you know, you look at all the G1 gimmicks that they did, like around season 2 and 3 and 4 of the toys, and it was just like. You got a lot of little bricks that you know they throw sparks, but they kind of look like a Griffin. I think if you squint, that kind of looks like a robot when you swivel this thing and that piece. But I mean,
yeah, like circling back, you know, Transformers itself is a gimmick. It's the puzzle. It's the 3 different things. And as they were building the Transformers line, after they got out of the original. You know, the source material, the Diaclone, and the micro change stuff. You know, they kind of were like off in the weeds. They're like the D&Ds after George Martin stopped writing the books. They had to finish the season, you know, and they're like, what do we do? Let's just make up stuff. So they just started. They got rid. The Hasbro guys back then couldn't make them transform good, but they're like, well, we can give it sparks. We can do all these things. Like, they had to add gimmicks, but in doing so, they lost, like, the core gimmick, which
right.
I think that's why we hate gimmicks.
Like Action Masters and things like that.
Yeah, they just, they lost it for some reason. And it still kind of happens. I do think it's funny though that some of those 80s gimmicks that like can never be replicated again, like the sparks, like no one is going to make a figure that like sparks or whatever that could potentially catch something on fire, you know what I mean? So
For all those kids in the 80s with gas leaks in their houses.
So, or the ones where, like, I don't think Transformers ever had it, but like the cap gun things, you know, that you would load in.
Oh, yeah. Master of the
whatnot.
Universe had a couple of those.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Megatron, this isn't a gimmick, but it almost seems like one. The fact that Megatron turned into a gun, you know,
That gun
like,
looks so realistic too. Like if you did it, like I guarantee you that people wouldn't be able to tell. Like especially if you're several feet away. So I mean that's the reason they can't do it anymore.
that water gun is going to be tough to get in the United States.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I
mean,
know
it's not Transformers, but the GoBots water gun Transformers were pretty hideous.
Rock Lords, dare I say it?
Oh
Powerful
no.
living rocks, man.
So I'll bring up another gimmick that we, I think, just ancillarily touched upon. Christian, you mentioned the Star Wars Transformers. Like, so we're getting into that now with Maverick and with Ectotron and Gigawatt, the non Transformers. I think what they're doing now is better than where they tried to make a Luke Skywalker looking guy that also turned into an X-wing. But it'll be interesting, like, how they continue with this, because I think, you know, like, I don't think they were branded Transformers at the time, but the Marvel ones that they tried to do looked pretty bad. And a lot of the Star Wars ones are like the AT-AT is just like, oh, you're just gonna throw the legs on his back. I mean, it's really hard to do that stuff.
Well, the real problem with those is they were destined to fail when they had to make them turn into existing human characters.
Right.
The only one that's any good is Grievous, in my opinion, because
The first Darth Maul, I think, was decent.
Well, I mean, it's just Grievous was a robot to begin with, so it sort of makes sense. Like, if they would have made Starscream turn into a TIE fighter or an X-Wing or something, that would have been better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, nowadays they would make like Forcitron or, you know, Empire Con or something. They'd make a new guy that, and I think that's better because it's like something new, something brand new.
Right.
Yeah, it tells the story, which is, you know, the thing I mentioned earlier too.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way they're doing it now, too, where they actually put it into a comic and tell a story and whatever, I think is a lot better. So I still think that Top Gun one does not look that great.
No, like, so that I was just gonna ask, is there an IDW Top Gun Transformers comic that they're just waiting to solicit that they haven't because the movie's been delayed? Do you think that's out there somewhere?
I mean, I
Maybe.
would kind of assume.
I mean, because they
And
did one for Ectotron. They're doing one for Gigawatt, right? So,
Right.
I don't know.
And neither of those have any movie tie-ins with any, you know, thing that they're waiting on a new movie to come out on, like Top Gun 2.
Right.
I think it's a possibility. I think it's less likely than the other two, but you never know.
Yeah. And then, so are they
Who
going to
cares
reuse
about
that
Top
Maverick mold somewhere else? Because the other two are reuse of Generations molds. So is that Maverick mold going to turn up somewhere in some other way, shape, and form?
Well, originally, my grapevine told me that the reason they were making the Top Gun toys because they were making a new Starscream. But those are two different, and which they did. They did both those things, but they apparently are unrelated.
Yeah.
They're two different molds.
Two different types of jets, too.
Two different size classes, really, because like that Maverick is bigger than a Voyager, or more intricate, or it's just a different type of build.
I mean, the volleyball really makes it another class.
I know it's very
I
just
think that
pushes
volleyball's
it
incredible.
that extra $10. I did like the animation, the little like stop motion video.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
That was good. That like to me, I was like, hey, that's as good as that toy will ever look. So hey, good job.
Yeah, I am a fan of all those that they're doing now. All the stop motion kind of stuff. Like, I don't know how much it costs them to do that, but I think it's very cute every time that they release that kind of stuff.
I'm sure there's some marketing folks that are on quarantine right now that are like, what kind of project can I do? Because I need to show that I still should have a job, and I'm kind of stir crazy at the same time.
100%.
I mean, we covered a lot of gimmicks, I gotta say.
Yeah, no, we've done a good job, I think. So I know we've went a while now. I do want to mention, so tomorrow night on Microcasters, we're gonna finish up doing our Pit of Judgment. So Christian, have you finally opened yours up?
I did.
So yeah,
I'm ready.
We'll actually review that. We ended up just doing the Alicons last week because, Christian and I were not ready to review the whole set. So check that out tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on Facebook on the tftalk.net Facebook page. And, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Oh, sure.
I share a little story about that Quintessence set. Apparently, Scotty, who we've mentioned tonight, his bailiff came without, like, the tail.
I saw that. Oh, my God. I just feel so bad for, people like him because it's very important to him to have a complete figure and all that. Whereas, there's some other dude that probably just could not care less.
Yeah, it's just so bad that
I think majority of people buying that set are going to be perturbed if there's a part missing.
That is true. So, but yeah, no, there's no way to ever get a replacement part for that. Unless somebody else is, willing to part out their figure. So, but I don't know. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap?
I think what we've hit upon a couple times roundabout, give me just good Transformers without a gimmick.
Yep. I mean, I do appreciate, again, the some of those Studio Series 86 or whatnot where they actually harken back to some of the scenes in the movies and things like that. I don't mind stuff like that. But yeah, I don't need a line-wide gimmick at all.
I mean, I think the current toys don't really have a lot of gimmicks. If they did, they're tertiary, like the blast effects and the battle masters and stuff. This is not really a gimmicky toy. This is just a good Transformer.
I mean, it still has a space mode.
You've got a bunch of the ports. I guess the only thing you would say is it's got a lot of ports for all the other battle masters and whatnot that you can attach to it, and the blast effects that you can attach to it.
Those are acceptable gimmicks.
But yeah, and I think that's the idea, is that it doesn't detract from the main toy itself. When you force a sound box or a spark thrower or something else in the toy, and you create that big chunk of plastic in the middle of it or some weird backpack thing, you just, it might be fun for a little kid, but it detracts from what we really want, which is a screen to in hand exact representation.
Don't forget about the big kids.
We need loving too. We gotta pay.
Exactly.
Here's a gimmick for you.
There you go.
Change his head.
I look forward to my Super Megatron, Paul. So.
Super. Thanks for asking.
So, all right. Well, thank you to everyone in the chat that participated. So, Minifigure Collector, Big Daddy Reviews, Zaldron, Ron, Man Monster Mecha, Catherine, Jay, Ron. Did I miss anyone? I'm sure I missed somebody.
Shout out to my boy Jeffrey Langmaid.
Yeah, I think I went through pretty much everybody. So, but if I missed anyone, I apologize. Anyway, thank you guys. If you want to continue the chat, join us on our Discord channel. The link should be with the YouTube videos, or it's on pinned to the top of Twitter. And yeah, we will see you tomorrow night for the talking about the Pit of Judgment. So, all right, thanks everyone.